Thank you, Presiding Officer. Labour brought forward this debate today because we are committed to supporting families with childcare and we want to see real action. And there have been a number of good contributions on how that can be achieved. Malcolm Chisholm, Alison Johnston and Liz Smith made very good speeches, and I think Willie Rennie and Jamie Hepburn made very important points as well. As Kezia Dugdale said in opening, this debate is because we recognise the need to develop a long-term strategy, a strategy that improves and increases preschool provision and expands wraparound care for primary school pupils too, and a strategy that reaches a consensus across party lines, which is why we have repeated our call from a year ago to tackle the issue on a cross-party basis in the form of a Scottish Childcare Commission. As our motion says, we should all share a determination to put childcare at the top of the political agenda, no matter the referendum result. Childcare is not a constitutional issue. Childcare is an important social and economic policy, but it is not a reason to break away from the UK, particularly when powers over childcare have been devolved to the Scottish Parliament since 1999 and under the responsibility of SNP ministers for the past 7 years. But unfortunately, the Nationalists have sought to make it a constitutional issue when they launched a white paper in November. If the Nationalists want to make childcare a constitutional issue, then they need to offer the substance and evidence rather than wishful thinking. The Spice briefing, Early Learning and Childcare, blew apart the SNP's childcare claims, and of today we have heard the same old arguments with no new evidence when they had the opportunity from the Scottish Government. And I want to deal with some of the claims that Nationalists have made today and in the White Paper. I want to make some progress. The first one we heard from the Minister, George Adam, Stuart Maxwell: we need the powers of independence to improve childcare. Well, that's not true, because you already have the powers. You just haven't used them until very recently. We've also heard the Minister say that the SNP's ambition is transformational childcare. Well, if the SNP have always been so ambitious about childcare, why is childcare provision lagging behind the rest of the UK right now? In August this year, 40% of 2-year-olds in England will get nursery, but only 15% in Scotland. Some ambition. But perhaps the biggest claim that has been made by the SNP that has been completely discredited by Spice is the reason we need independence for childcare is that it will be completely self-funding. I have no doubt more childcare can help more women enter the job market if childcare meets their needs. There are jobs available, they have the skills they need, and crucially it suits their circumstances to go back to work. The SNP have said an increase in female employment of 104,000 would fund the policy. The problem they have, the very big problem they have with that claim, is that Spice found that in 2011 there were only 64,000 women with nursery-age children who were, as it describes, economically inactive, and out of them only 14,000 wanted to work. Now, we know the SNP want to suspend the rules of arithmetic in this referendum debate, but 14,000 and 104,000 don't go. But the new claim for SNP ministers and members today is ignore Spice, there are more than enough women. We've heard the SNP make up lots of things ahead of this referendum, but the one thing you cannot make up is human beings that don't exist. There are at least anywhere between 40,000 and 90,000 missing mums for this policy to be self-funding. Enough mums to fill Hampden Park or even Wembley Stadium. And now, without any evidence to back it up, we hear the claim from the SNP, it won't happen straight away. This will happen over time. Really? Well, how long? How long will it take for your policy to be credible? 10 years? 20 years? 30 years? Christine Graham said there would be cuts to childcare if we vote no. Talk about scaremongering from the SNP. I'd be interested to know, is that the official SNP line? Are they really going to say that there will be no increase in childcare if we vote no in the referendum in September? I noticed they're not making any comment on that. Obviously not the official SNP line.
Mr Bibby, a minute. Ms Graham, I wasn't calling you. I was reprimanding you for shouting across the chamber. Mr Bibby.
Mike Russell and Joe McAlpine also said we lacked the ambition of Nia Bevan. I would just say to Joe McAlpine, she is no Nia Bevan. I would say to Mike Russell, he's no Nia Bevan either. Today was the opportunity for the SNP government to come to the chamber and dispute the evidence from Spice that their policy is unfunded and uncosted. The only new thing we heard today was from Bob Doris, who said that Trident is going to pay for childcare. I thought the policy was self-funding, Bob Doris. Presiding officer,
Minister.
That's the things the SNP have told us, but what haven't they told us? In terms of costings, I've asked the Minister for Children and Young People for a total cost of the policy before today, since the White Paper was published, and again today, and has consistently refused to answer that question. How incompetent is this government when they can't even tell us the total cost of their flagship policy? Perhaps it's not surprising when John Swinney can't or won't tell us 100 days before the referendum what the set-up costs of independence would be. I'm happy to take an intervention. I'm happy to take an intervention if any of the members want to tell me what the set-up of independence will be. No takers. No takers. No takers. We know in terms of childcare...
Can we just settle down, please?
We know in terms of childcare, Spice have given us an answer. They've estimated it will cost in the region of £1.2 billion and could be even higher at £1.5 billion. What else have they not told us about the Spice facts and findings? That the modelling that has been published isn't even directly related to the SNP childcare policy, because it does not consider whether that policy would cause an increase of 6% in female labour market participation. So there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest the White Paper childcare commitment would result in Scotland's female participation rate matching that of Sweden. The SNP have also based their figures on all women working full-time, when we know that women want to work part-time. The SNP don't base any calculations on the average female wage of £17,000, but on the £26,000 annual figure for men and women. They don't tell us that in 2013 women's gross average hourly pay was 17% lower compared to men. And there are many other issues, including the potential downward pressure on real wages identified by Spice. So there we have it. The SNP's White Paper childcare policies. Never have seen such a demolishment of a misleading policy claims. The Spice briefing in April.
Order.
No full costings.
Order.
Not self-funding. When there have been calculations based on the ROG figures, all to be paid for without an increase in tax at the same time as cutting corporation tax, and also to be paid for without cutting other public services by £1.2 billion. However, the most revealing aspect of how little substance the SNP's childcare policy has is the lengths they are going to hide the figures behind the policy. The journalist Tom Gordon, under Freedom of Information, sought to find out if ministers had modelled their actual childcare policies. He was told no. Then the Scottish Government quickly retracts that and says yes. But guess what? The Scottish Government says it's not in the public interest to publish it. How can hiding the truth be in the public interest? We've asked for this modelling to be published in written questions and oral questions, and again here in this debate today. It's not in the public interest to publish it. It's not in the SNP's interest to publish the full economic modelling and costings. Why else would ministers go to such lengths to keep it hidden? I'll ask one more time. Will the Scottish Government publish all the economic modelling or costings, yes or no? Well, since they didn't say yes, Presiding Officer, since they didn't say yes, and they've not disputed the Spice claims, we need to get back to using the powers that we have in this Parliament. We need to form a cross-party childcare commission to look at the issues, identify the problems and fund the childcare that our families desperately need. It is regrettable that yet again the SNP choose to put the Constitution before childcare.